Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Lucinda Vakura, Senior Director of Business Development and Marketing with Alford Group. My pronouns are she, her, and I have short brown hair. I'm wearing dark rimmed glasses, and today I have on a gray shirt with a black blazer against a blurred white background. Our event today is titled Demystifying Cryptocurrency, How Crypto Giving Works and Why It's Important. Before we dive into the presentation today, I want to go over our land acknowledgement, a little bit about Alford Group, and some housekeeping items before I hand it off to our speakers. So Alford Group is a national firm. We have consultants all over the country, and our speakers today are from all over the country, as are all of you joining. But our headquarters is in Chicago, Illinois. So I'm going to read the land acknowledgement for Chicago, Illinois. Chicago is located on the traditional unceded homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes, such as the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sac, and Fox, also called this area home. The region has long been a center for Indigenous people to gather, trade, and maintain kinship ties. A little bit about Alford Group. I realize many of you, if not most of you, are very familiar with who we are and what we do. Alford Group is a national full-service consultancy serving the nonprofit sector. We offer 6 flagship services that are listed on the right-hand side: fundraising, strategic planning, leadership development, interim staffing, data management, diversity, equity, inclusion services. Really, our vision for the world and the work that we do is a world where possibilities are endless and reflect the best of who we are as humans. We are a proud member of AFP, the Association of Fundraising Professionals. We are a certified women's business enterprise and a member of the Giving Institute. So that's just a little bit about us. You can surely find more information at alford.com, and our social media handle is in the bottom left-hand corner at the Alford Group. Just a couple of quick things before we dive in. One, a reminder for those of you who have been joining our fall webinar series, and for any of you who this may be your first webinar, this is our 3rd webinar in our series of webinars this fall, and we have one left. It's called Capital Campaigns, the 4 things you need to have in place before you launch. It's on December 8th at 1 o'clock Central Time, and we invite you to join us for that webinar as well. That webinar, as well as this webinar, are approved for 1 CFRE credit. So if you are working towards your certification or recertification, this will help you get there and is approved for that 1.0 CFRE credit. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we dive in. Today's webinar is being recorded. You will receive a copy of the recording later today. We're going to send out an email within the next 24 hours with the full recording, along with the survey. So the survey is really short. We really, really appreciate your feedback. Please consider completing the survey when we're done here today. Everyone is in listen-only mode for the duration of today's event. However, we do want this to be interactive and a dynamic conversation. So the chat is open. Please provide your comments, your reactions to the content there, and we will be interacting definitely through the chat. If you have a question at any point throughout the webinar for any one of the panelists, please use the Q&A icon. That's if you mouse over the bottom of your screen, it's should be an icon that you can click on, opens a window, and there you can chat your question. That will go to the panelists, and we'll answer as many questions as possible during the Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. And then finally, we invite you to join us on Twitter. We'll be live tweeting about the webinar and cryptocurrency, and we invite you to join the conversation there as well. So with that, I want to turn things over to Sharon Tiknis, who's the Chief Client Experience Officer with Alford Group. And Sharon's going to walk us through the agenda and kick us off.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to have this conversation with our panel and with you. And just to share with you, when we planned this webinar, we were thinking, year-end giving is coming. More and more Alpha Group clients are thinking about accepting cryptocurrency and asking for information about it. Alpha Group has a 43-year history of being a thought leader and looking at trends and bringing them forward. So we thought, let's do this webinar and help everybody think about how to consider crypto giving in their portfolio and in their planning. Well, then, of course, needless to say, since last Friday, cryptocurrency has been a headline in nearly every story, every broadcast, every podcast. And so it couldn't be more timely. And we hope that through this, this approach that we're taking to sharing the information, that you'll be able to look at how you can consider whether or not cryptocurrency giving is something that you want to create the vehicle for and to promote, and if so, how to do it. And for those of you who are using crypto giving, to look at how you can level up that activity and ask questions about what's working or or to provide actually also great ideas that you've had that have helped to promote crypto giving for your organization. So we have a fantastic panel. We're going to start by giving you an overview of crypto giving. We're not going to promise that you'll leave here understanding all things cryptocurrency. I certainly don't, although I've become a student of it in the last year. Our fantastic panel is, I think, going to provide both sort of a point and counterpoint relative to what works and what hasn't worked. And to share with you, we learn by doing, we learn by mistakes, and we learn by experience from others. So we hope to bring a smart approach for you to think about how to, again, introduce crypto giving or to think about the timing of when you might. And then we're going to save plenty of time for questions. So joining me today are this fantastic panel, and I know they want to say hello to you. So feel free to drop into the chat your name, your location or your organization, or anything you want to say to help start us off. Again, I'm Sharon Tiknis, the Chief Client Experience Officer with Alford Group. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm coming to you from Prescott, Arizona, sunny blue Prescott, Arizona, wearing a blue top with a turquoise necklace with short brown hair. And I'm excited to introduce to you Andi Anderson. Andi is the Director of Philanthropy and Events at PAWS in Washington State. PAWS stands for Progressive Animal Welfare Society. Prior to Andi's work at PAWS, she was a consultant and advised nonprofits on their fundraising and philanthropic efforts. And she holds a bachelor's degree and an MBA from Willamette University in beautiful Willamette Valley, Oregon. Andi, we'd love for you to say a little bit about PAWS.
Absolutely. Always happy to do that. As Sharon said, my name is Andi Anderson. My pronouns are she, her. I am coming to you today from my living room. My background is my houseplants that could probably use a watering here. And I am wearing a gray and white shirt, and I have medium length brown hair. And I'm very happy to be here to talk about cryptocurrency and about PAWS. PAWS was founded in 1967. As an organization to help people and animals. And we focus on adopting out dogs and cats. We serve about 3,500 of them every year. And we also take in about 5,000 wild animals from the public every single year as well. And our goal with our wild animals is to rehabilitate them and return them to the wild. Additionally, we have education programs to help teach our community, primarily youth, about how to take compassionate action for animals around them.
Thank you, Andi. And please join me in welcoming Alex Cesario, the Chief Development Officer for Breakthrough, a Chicago nonprofit. Under her leadership, the organization has seen growth of $10 million in revenue. Alex has a bachelor's degree from Loyola University and completed the Nonprofit Executive Leadership Program at Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. Alex?
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. Like Sharon said, my name is Alex Cesario. My pronouns are she, her. I am coming to you live from the Breakthrough Men's Shelter in my office. I have a cream colored background with pictures of my children, and I have long brown hair and am wearing a black top. I'm so grateful to be here talking about cryptocurrency, specifically as it impacts the human services sector. Breakthrough is a nonprofit organization that has been around for 30 years, supporting people to build connections, develop skills, and open doors of opportunity. We work with over 8,000 people with a hyper-local focus on the Garfield Park community on Chicago's West Side. We have an annual budget of $14 million and about 170 people on staff that provide services to the whole community, from housing, education and youth development, violence prevention, food access, job training, and mental health.
Thank you so much, Alex. And finally joining us is Karl Simpson, an account executive with the Giving Block. Karl's passionate about building philanthropic access to cryptocurrency and helping nonprofit organizations diversify their revenue sources. He's consulted with teams at top universities, community foundations, and nonprofits across the country. He's based in Atlanta and holds a degree from the University of Florida. Karl? Oh, you need to come off mute. Sorry, Karl.
Thanks, Sharon. So happy to be here with you guys. My name is Karl, he, him. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. I've got glasses on, short brown hair, and I have a faux future office background in my Zoom screen. And I'm from the Giving Block. We work with about 2,000 different nonprofits, really helping you guys accept crypto, as easy as possible in a safe and compliant way. And then also help you fundraise crypto with the broader crypto audience. So really excited to be presenting along with Andi and Alex, and thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you all. Well, let's jump in. And as we get started here, I'd love for you all to drop in the chat one of your earliest memories of a scientific or technological advancement that's happened in your lifetime. It's just amazing to think about how technology inventions and interventions have really shaped the force of the world that we live in. And just looking at the telephone, for instance, it was invented in 1876, and yet the first iPhone wasn't introduced until June of 2007. The first iPhone with a camera and high resolution was introduced in 2010. And certainly, as you think about the use of our smartphones, it takes into account nearly everything that you see on this world's best interventions model here. And in doing my research for this session, I heard several economists talk about cryptocurrency as perhaps being as revolutionary as the World Wide Web, that given its capacity to be used in distinct ways, its security, the fact that it overcomes international boundaries, has the potential to really revolutionize currency in the world. So that's why we're all here trying to figure out, okay, well, what's this mean for me? And so let's see here. What are some of your comments? Panel, what jumped out at you? Pong. Exactly. Oh my goodness. What would we do without the games that we can play on our phones and on our screens, right? All kinds of fun things. Well, good. Well, as we get GPS, so I isn't it funny? I remember driving across the country with my family with the map, and who knew that you were going to be like exit whatever. I mean, I can't even imagine how we did that and managed to get across the country. What fun. Yeah, home computer. I remember my best friend saying to me when we were probably in our 20s, do you have email yet? And I said, what's that? So just so exciting to know how technology makes the world a smarter, better, more functional, efficient, and fun place to be. So let's think about cryptocurrency and what it is. So just starting from the very basics, it is a code to create a first asset class with unchangeable transaction records and an unchangeable supply. It cannot be counterfeit. Its additional leading traits include 24-hour markets, divisibility, and authorization speeds. But as we think about the crypto market, we certainly understand the volatility of it. Not unlike stocks, cryptocurrency has had corrections of 60 to 80% over each of the past 3 years. And it is evolving in its presence in our world. Cryptocurrency is based on a non-fungible token, an NFT, a way to store data on a blockchain. It cannot be swapped interchangeably, and we know that each token functions as a way to validate ownership of something, such as a single work of digital art. I have a friend who is a fantastic artist who sells her work through cryptocurrency, and is a very fun thing to see how her portfolio has grown. But also, just how do we think about it? It is different than a stock. It's different than a coin. It is to think about NFT as more like a deed to a house than the house itself. So the holder of the deed can prove that they're the owner of the house, but an NFT holder can prove that they own that asset as well. So as we think about the news in the last week and the decline of the CEO of FXT, one of the things that's come forward is, why is this happening? Like, how did this happen? And one of the reasons is that cryptocurrency has not been regulated in the ways that other currencies have. And the SEC, which is the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission, whose mission is to protect investors, maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation, has not yet been deployed to work within this realm, but it is certainly something that is on the horizon and that is surely coming in the not too distant future. So whether your organization is, thinking about this or about moving toward accepting cryptocurrency or not, we want you to sort of take into account that 16% of Americans say that they use some kind of cryptocurrency. In the span of about a year, nonprofits have gone from what are NFTs to how can we incorporate NFTs into our fundraising strategies. Crypto donors are disproportionately charitable. In 2020, 45% of crypto investors donated at least $1,000 to charity, compared to 33% of the general population. And in 2021, the average size of cryptocurrency donation processed by the Giving Block, where Karl is associated, was $10,455. And services like the Giving Block make it possible for nonprofits to fundraise multiple crypto assets, generate tax receipts for donors, and embed a crypto donation widget on your website. So just taking another look at crypto giving, one of the things that we want you to understand, and that this panel will help you to understand in full, is that crypto donors are a distinct audience. They do tend to be typically more men than women, and they tend to be younger. Millennials and Gen Z, who see social impact as a part of their personal responsibility, use their cryptocurrency in a way to make choices and to patronize brands that reflect their views and reflect their values. 3/4 of millennials consider themselves to be philanthropists, compared to 45% or less than half of the general population. So again, thinking about how to attract, if you have a strong a portion of millennials in your millennials and Gen Z donors and friends and volunteers, then and if they are perhaps involved in technology or involved in new ways of approaching resources, then perhaps you have a sweet spot in the crypto donor universe. And then also just to note that many donors that hold crypto are able to donate more in crypto than if they were able to give in cash. So, depending on the value of their crypto and in the ever-changing, fluctuating world, just like stocks, some stocks are up and some are down. Same is true with crypto. So just to step back for a second and say, we all have done things for the first time as professional fundraisers and nonprofit leaders. Remember the first Giving Tuesday, and everyone thought, what is that? And now, my goodness, everybody is organized around Giving Tuesday. Your first social media campaign. So drop in the chat what was the novel idea that you were charged with at some point in your career. We'd love to hear how you've approached bringing new tactics to market in your work. Let's see here. What do we see? Text to give. That's right, Alex. See what other, the QR codes, exactly. That's a good one to add to this list. Yeah. Boy, I actually have to admit that our QR code for our next webinar is the first time Alford groups used one, that, as I recall. Giving circles, exactly. Sustaining members, exactly right. One-time donations, moving them to sustaining members. Well, keep sharing where it is that you introduce, reciprocal membership societies, particularly with museums and other organizations, that YMCAs, right? Well, thank you for this walk down memory lane. So I'm going to turn it over to Karl to talk for a few minutes about why donate crypto.
Hey guys. Yeah, there's a couple different reasons that donors would like to donate crypto. In short, crypto donations are very similar to stock donations. So if you have $100,000 in crypto, now it's $1 million. If you were to sell it for cash and then donate the cash, it would trigger that taxable event. By donating the crypto directly, they get to donate the full amount, and it's tax-free for you guys as a nonprofit. So similar tax incentives as donating a stock. The real difference is just the scale of the appreciation. It's been the best performing asset class of the last 10 years. So odds are, they might want to donate their crypto at least last year, maybe not right now, as opposed to like their Amazon stock or other appreciated assets that they have. The second big thing that nonprofits are looking at is trying to tap into, I know Sharon touched on it, really the ideal donor demographic that nonprofits are able to tap into with crypto. They tend to be, much younger than your average donor. So usually late 20s, early 40s, and then more importantly, much higher net worth and much more engaged on social media. So typically your stock donor, they'll make a big stock donation. They're not going to be talking about it on social media, talking to their friends about it. Crypto donors are kind of unique that they're much higher net worth, much younger, but they tend to be really engaged with the nonprofits that we work with on social media. So it's kind of like this sweet spot of a donor demographic for nonprofits to want to target. And the big opportunity is really cultivating these net new donors from these crypto donors. So that's really why you're looking at accepting cryptocurrency and why you're looking to donate cryptocurrency as like a donor.
That's great. Well, no time like the present to hear from Andi and Alex on how their interaction with crypto giving emerged, and to learn from them, and for Karl to provide additional commentary on what the Giving Block has seen as opportune decision points for organizations. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and ask first Alex and then Andi, what were the factors that led PAWS and Breakthrough to consider and set up acceptance of giving with crypto?
Sure. So Breakthrough's been around in the donor engagement world for 30 years since we started, and our main source of revenue historically has come from a large base of individual donors. And so we've always tried to be really proactive and forward thinking about how to meet our donors at the various stages that they would consider giving a gift. And so the decision to implement the Giving Block specifically onto our web platform was to provide just another opportunity to meet donors where they're at and to facilitate giving that gift to Breakthrough.
Thank you. Andi?
Yeah, we were not as graceful in our entry into cryptocurrency as Alex and Breakthrough were. We actually were approached first by a member of our local community who out of the blue one day in April said, "Hey, can you figure out a way to set up cryptocurrency? I'm with a project and we want to send you some." And that was interesting. And we had a lot of internal conversations. I had a finance partner at the time within the organization who thought that was a really intriguing inquiry to get from the public. And so we started doing a lot of research, and neither one of us really knew a whole lot about the nonprofit crypto philanthropy space before that. But as we delved into it, we realized that our organization may be well positioned to be attractive to crypto donors, being at the intersection of animal welfare. You know, when you've got cats involved, you're usually pretty primed to be successful on the internet. And so we were fortunate enough to have a board at the time that was really forward looking, like Alex and her group are, in terms of trying to invest in infrastructure that makes us accessible to donors from all different walks of life and with all different kinds of wealth and assets to have an impact on animals.
Thank you. And Andi, while you're still off mute,
I'll
come to you next. You know, cryptocurrency has a persona of its own. And I know that one thing that we would encourage all nonprofits to think about is how we know the alignment between cryptocurrency, technology, universe, and your mission. So how did you come to a point of view about that?
Yeah, well, for us, I mean, it was a pretty good validator that we had someone in our community who already supported us, who was also very involved in the crypto community as well. And obviously that's a sample size of one. So, you know, we kind of did a little bit more digging into that. We looked at some of our peer organizations that were already accepting cryptocurrency. Some of the first movers in this space actually were global wildlife protection agencies, as well as animal shelters for companion animals. And what we happen to do both of those things. So we just felt like there was a really good alignment in terms of the kinds of donors that are already in this space and what PAWS offers to that community. And then additionally, you know, we did a lot of thinking about how do we do this in a way that we are equipped to do it, because like I am not a cryptocurrency expert. I would never claim to be one in any way, and we knew we needed help. So we found the folks at the Giving Block to give us some more guidance and help us set up the technology infrastructure, because there's no way, even knowing what I know now, there's no way that we would have just set up our own wallet, put it on a website, and just tried to accept donations. Is not a strategy I would personally recommend to anyone on this webinar. Don't get any ideas just because I mentioned it offhand. So I don't think that's the right path forward. But yeah, so that's kind of how we did it. You know, we first looked at, are the donors there for us? And then we looked at how could we make this happen in a way that wouldn't put too much strain or expose us to any risk that wouldn't be appropriate.
Right. Well, Karl, you and your colleagues have certainly seen organizations think very seriously about concerns around cryptocurrency and crypto giving. What do you see organizations grapple with? What are the environmental factors or other factors that you see as organizations look at bringing this on?
Yeah, I think there's a few common concerns that come up. Environment definitely is one that's touched on. I think the most common concern is just uncertainty. Like, people don't know anything about crypto. There's always inherent risk and things you don't know about. And then, like, is this easy and is this safe and secure? So I'll touch on all those, and then I'll let you guys fill in if you had any other concerns from either like your board or anybody of like your existing donors. But in terms of, you know, trying to make this really easy, part of what the Giving Block does is create a really turnkey solution. So you guys are accepting crypto. We'll walk you through onboarding. I know Barbara posted in the chat, do all crypto brokerage have like a cryptocurrency as part of their exchange. We set up organizations with like your own institutional crypto exchange. Our partners in the space provide like the most secure, regulatory compliant exchanges for, and we work with like universities, American Cancer Society, about 2,000 different nonprofits. So from a security standpoint, they're super buttoned up. And that kind of touches on the safe and secure part of things. Most of the time, the gift acceptance policies for nonprofits, their gift acceptance policies is to take the crypto, turn it into cash right away. So all the solution is automated. We automate the liquidation into US dollars, the deposit into your bank account, the receipting for the donors, and the automated tax forms. So it's actually a lot easier than like a standard stock acceptance procedure when you're sending a ton of forms to the donors. So that's kind of the safety, the security, the ease of use. The environmental impact is something that we take into account. Part of what we do at the Giving Block is Gemini, the exchange that we set you guys up with. They have a Gemini Green program where they buy equivalent carbon offsets for what they calculate as their usage through the blockchain network. We buy 2x equivalent on our side as well. So we try to take into account and be as green as we possibly can. That being said, 60% of crypto is already mined via renewable energy. Crypto is also uses excess energy production to mine crypto. So if you think of like a natural gas flare up, they're just burning that extra energy. They can't use it because it's not efficient to use it to move it through the existing electrical grid. Crypto can walk to that place, mine it, create a portability to that excess energy. So we actually see it as something really beneficial for the environment. Some of our fastest growing verticals are environmental organizations. But we have lots of blog posts and resources that you can read about, learn a little bit more about some of the environmental impacts. And I think Andi touched on it too, and I'll let you speak more about it. But we really want this cryptocurrency going to nonprofits like you guys that are supporting the environment, supporting these really good causes. And we think that offsets like any negative impact that cryptocurrency potentially has.
Well, just reflect. Yeah, no, that's good. And just to follow up on that, Alex and Andi, what steps did you go through in your organization? Karl mentioned your board, but a CEO or a CFO often have a lot of questions or concerns, policies and procedures that you need to adapt. So, Alex, can you tell us a little bit about Breakthrough's journey on that?
Sure, yeah. Part of our mission at Breakthrough is to provide inclusive opportunities for people. And so that trickles into the way that we see philanthropy as well. And so I think that because we established that as a value within our team, bringing on something like cryptocurrency wasn't actually a very challenging conversation. We want to provide a variety of different methods for people to give in ways that make sense for them. And so, for us, it was an easy ad. And there was something in the chat about a website. We'll show an example slide of how we've embedded that at Breakthrough, but it was pretty easy on the tech on the back end. And I think that also helped convince our team that this would be a good investment of money and something to sort of, we're in a different situation than what Andi is in at PAWS, where we didn't have a donor. We were just implementing something because we thought it could be a really valuable resource for us. And so we kind of just dipped our toe in with the Giving Block, and they made it really easy for us. And I'll share an example of what that looks like on our website. But I think because it was a new technology and we had those values as a team, that it was pretty straightforward to implement. But that being said, I think when considering investing in any new technology, it's important as a fund development team to decide what your values are and what you're willing to invest your resources in.
Andi, how about PAWS? What were the steps or barriers along the way?
I touched on it a little bit earlier in kind of describing our entry into
immediate
this world. Right, exactly. And I was really fortunate to have a finance partner that was on board who had, he wasn't an expert in cryptocurrency, but he was willing to go on this wild journey with me and actually help me with the research and compliance side of things too. I know from other folks that I've talked to who have looked to get into this space, that's often where they I wouldn't say meet resistance, but where there's a lot of due diligence that's required to help the rest of the internal team feel comfortable is what are the tax implications of this? What might this do to our balance sheet? What kind of security concerns do we have? There's lots of questions that they have that are all really important for your finance team to be asking. But I had someone who was willing to kind of help me do a lot of the homework. So by the time we did that and presented it to our CEO, we are PAWS in a place similar to Alex, where we really do have a value around being inclusive and also being innovative in our work as much as possible. We are in the middle of a very ambitious capital campaign for our organization. And so we're in a place where we have to be thinking creatively about ways to generate revenue to support our work, both on an annual operating basis and for everything over and above what we're raising to keep the lights on. So we've been kind of exploring all kinds of options to open up new revenue streams. And that's where we were coming from. So when I presented it that way to our board, they were pretty easy to get aligned and get buy-in from on this project. I will say the environmental concern was the biggest one that my board had. And we worked with the giving block to kind of understand what the environmental impacts are. And, you know, while yes, there are environmental questions that I am not an expert in by any means, Karl certainly knows more about that than I do, but the way that our organization opted to look at it is most of the people who are in the crypto space are here because they want to do good, especially those who are crypto philanthropists. Like you saw disproportionately, folks who hold cryptocurrency are more philanthropic than the general average American population. And while there aren't, you know, a ton of environmental regulations and environmental oversight around this industry, like Karl said, a lot of organizations are self-regulating and they are doing things to offset their impact or to have a positive impact. And our organization isn't in a position where we can wait in order to for this to be perfect environmentally, in order to use the funds now to help animals. Barbara wants to know more about environmental impacts. Karl, can you jump in and give like more of a specifics on exactly like what are the things people are concerned about with crypto?
Sure. So with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin specifically, Ethereum moved over to a proof of stake model to kind of limit that environmental impact. But how it's created is they run a node on a computer, and by doing so, they use CPU and GPU power, and they use electricity to create the Bitcoin. So the environmental concern is that to create a Bitcoin, you have to use a lot of electricity. It's part of kind of what gives it its value and part of the scarcity. But the concern there is, you know, we don't want to be adding extra electricity usage. We don't want to be creating a bigger carbon footprint by accepting crypto. And I think importantly is to look at crypto is to look at it not in a void, but in tandem with like an existing financial infrastructure that also uses a lot of energy. So I think the strides that they've made is, you know, they're moving to renewable energy pretty much quicker than any industry I've seen in the past 10 years. If you saw a new fledgling industry and you're like, you know, they should move to renewable energy, 60% is pretty quick. So it's driving tons of investments into renewable energy, and it's also optimizing our existing energy grid. So those are some of like the powerful things that crypto is doing for the environment. But overall, it does cost energy to create a Bitcoin. So that's where that like concern is coming from. It's right. Hard to go. There's a lot of different things about it. It's much better to read, I think, some articles about the overall impact to get a
and Barbara, I think that the only other thing that I could say that I hope is helpful and not misleading is NFTs are created through data mining on a computer, and it is that data mining process that uses so much energy to be able to create that data. So
yeah, it's really in the creation of the data. Actually, once the crypto is created, the transfer of currency is much more efficient than the current financial system. Right. But the creation of the cryptocurrency is where that energy intensiveness is coming from.
And the mining is referring to creation of crypto. So that's just to be clear, because I know those are confusing words in the way that we think about them today. So just because we do want to make more time for questions, I want to share with you all how Breakthrough, and I'll make this a little bigger if I can here, how Breakthrough and PAWS promoted their crypto giving. So please go ahead, Alex.
So we signed on to the giving block in November of last year. So we've been at it for about a year, and we created a URL, which is breakthrough.org/crypto. And so when you go to our donation landing page, you can click into a separate page that talks about the tax benefits and what type of cryptocurrency we accept. And then there's a widget that you can see on the right-hand side that allows people to donate their cryptocurrency. Now, I don't know if this is the best time to talk about this in the webinar, but I will say that it's been a little mixed for us. So Sharon talked about the has it been a good return on our investment? And we've found that we don't really have the audience for this. And so our donor base has historically, traditionally given in different ways. And we tried something new with the cryptocurrency, and we have not received the return on the investment that we thought we did. We've marketed in all of our digital campaigns. We put QR codes on our print materials to direct people to this landing page, and we've marketed on our social media. And so it's not necessarily for a lack of trying with innovative marketing techniques, but we have not been very successful with getting people to donate via crypto.
Thank you, Alex. And Andi, if you'll share, again, you've touched on this, but please take us through.
Sure. Yeah. So I gave it a timeline here because a question I get when I talk to folks about crypto is how long did all of this take for it to come together and come to fruition? So I'm not going to walk you through step by step, but you can get a little taste of kind of how we walked through the process. Also some animal pictures for your enjoyment, of course. So for us, like I said, we came out of the gate and we had someone who was interested in supporting us with cryptocurrency. That initial project actually ended up kind of stalling out for some time. And we did not end up seeing our first cryptocurrency donation from that group who originally approached us. But they did come back later, and in November of 2021 gave us our largest cryptocurrency donation. It was 23 Ethereum, or ETH as people typically call it when they're talking about it out loud. 23 ETH at the time was about the equivalent of $100,000 US, and that went towards helping us build our new wildlife center. So we've had some really big donations overall. We've had roughly 19 different cryptocurrency donations since we started accepting in August of 2021. And for us, we did a little bit of promoting within our existing donor base, but I will say we have a 50-50 split of gifts coming from known and anonymous donors in our cryptocurrency world, which is not that uncommon for them to choose to be fully anonymous when they're making their donations. But of those that we know of, not a single one of them was an existing PAWS donor before they made their cryptocurrency donation. And I just think that that's really fascinating. Average gift size for us is a little skewed, obviously, because we had that $100,000 donation, but we're sitting at about 10,000, very, very close to the Giving Block's average client, average gift value. But that is trending down. And if you take out that big donation, I would say our average is probably closer to 5,000 or so. We've had some as large as 50,000, some as small as $13, depending on the cryptocurrency and the amount that we're getting. So anyway, for us, we realized very quickly that this was an acquisition tool. This was a tool to reach into a new donor base than it was so much like getting into our existing donor base. So we have spent most of our time promoting this on Twitter, and that's almost exclusively where we talk about cryptocurrency. We bring it up. Interesting question from Dan. We can come back to that one in the Q&A. So for us, we let people know about it, but really it's all Twitter, and it's me talking to people on Twitter all the time. Right. For as much as I can.
And Dan, just might ask for some additional comment. I think the fact that PAWS is in Seattle, where it's a high-tech environment, and that you are an animal welfare organization, which is also a place where crypto givers tend to migrate is helpful. Karl, what are the other sweet spots for crypto, to knowing whether or not you have crypto donors in your organization?
Yeah, there's a couple things to look at. The first is just your individual giving donor base. There's kind of two different sides of crypto. There's the tax incentivized giving for your existing donors, and then the cultivating of the net new donors from social media. So first, there's a good geographic overlay. So if you want to look at like Seattle, Miami, crypto is pretty widespread, about 100 million across the US. So it is spread out, but those definitely are going to help a little bit. Some higher performing verticals, like you said, environmental organizations, animal organizations, a little bit easier to fundraise if you're like a national entity than like a local entity. But there generally is like a threshold whereas if you have a certain size of individual like giving base, that there's usually going to be some crypto donors in there that you're going to want to give at least the ability to donate that tax incentivized asset, maybe not this year, but maybe next year. That being said, we did see our largest donation ever come through this month, which was $9.5 million. So that has skewed our average donation size again upwards. So, I mean, and then the second part is the cultivating of your net new donors. Where you're going to want to look at if crypto fits in your overall fundraising strategy is, you know, how active you guys are on social media already. If you guys are trying to be more innovative, if that part of your goals are to increase your social media presence, you know, that is the more difficult part of crypto fundraising. It's really easy to turn on a widget and have it like in your donate crypto page, but the organizations who are the most active specifically on Twitter tends to be where the crypto community lives primarily. And that generally pays dividends in terms of organizations who are actively fundraising crypto tend to have outsized fundraising than organizations who aren't. So that's what I would think of if I was looking to add crypto in my fundraising strategy is really if you have like a young professional board, if you have any extra bandwidth to dedicate to fundraising crypto, is going to help you a lot in the long run. And then if you don't, if you have like a really big individual giving base, you know, it might make sense for you to still accept crypto to give that option to your existing donors. And then I think the geographic overlays, the segments are important too. But something nice about the cryptocurrency community is they are a very diverse demographic. You know, racially, we do see more male crypto users than women donors, although that growth is trending to be a little bit more equal. And what's cool about that is we still see the donors donate to like a diverse range of different types of organizations.
Yeah, I think one data point that I read was 22% of men say they've used cryptocurrency compared to 10% of women. Well, let's move to question and answers. Lucinda, do you want to join us here on screen and let's hear where we want to focus next?
Sure. Well, this is such a great conversation. Thank you all. So we do have a couple of questions. One sort of circling back. So the question is around the best place on your website to include crypto giving information. And Alex, you had shared that, you know, a screenshot of your website, but maybe all of you could just speak a little bit more to how do you know where to put the widgets? And, you know, I'm sure there's A/B testing that's been done to demonstrate what's the best spot. So any thoughts around that?
I think Alex's example is pretty textbook of what we recommend organizations do. Generally, if you have like an other ways to give section, if you have a donate drop down, you can have donate crypto on there. Really, the most important thing is that if a donor is coming to your website and they're trying to donate crypto to you guys, that they be able to intuitively, you know that you accept crypto. Because it's a little bit newer, they're usually not going to shoot you an email if they can't find it easy. So I think that's, you know, the most important thing. And I think this is a pretty good example of what we'd recommend.
Yeah, and I'll also put in the chat our regular donation page, and you can see that there is a donate cryptocurrency section on that. And then in the drop-down menu for our donate, it does say crypto, and then we highlighted it and said new, so that when people did click that there was an obvious new way that people could give to Breakthrough.
Great. That's very helpful. And then there are a few questions actually that are more technical. So I think we can kind of bring them. Oh, Andi, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because we haven't brought it up yet, and this is like really not intended to be a Giving Block commercial, but I will say one of the things that led our organization to choose to partner with the Giving Block was that in addition to having a widget we could put on our own website, which I tried to bring up and put a link to, but I think we're doing server maintenance right now. So sorry, you may be able to find that on your own later. Yeah, of course. But in addition to having that widget, the Giving Block also has basically a directory on their website of organizations that accept cryptocurrency through the Giving Block. So to us, that was really attractive, as thinking about this as like an acquisition tool, because people wouldn't have to know that they wanted to give to PAWS, right? They could find PAWS by looking through causes that they care about and see our page and view our profile. So that to us made this a really attractive solution. And I think as of the last time I was looking, 60%, maybe more of the donations we've received have come through our landing page on the Giving Blocks website, compared to like only 40% of them coming through the widget on the PAWS.org website. So that's just an added layer that I didn't want to miss pointing out. Again, not a commercial, just a factor.
Yeah, and I would say that, well, I don't know if somebody else, Alex, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that that's been the same for us. 100% of the donations that we've received for cryptocurrency have come from the Giving Block. Now, that has only been $1,000, but it was only through the Giving Block. Our existing donor base does not have the appetite to give cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I would just add that that this is different than, for instance, asking your bank to accept stock transfers on your behalf. There's a lot to accepting cryptocurrency on the back end, which is a very sophisticated process, and which is why organizations like Giving Block have been created to help be that pass through for organizations. So it's not likely that your bank or whoever holds assets for your endowment, for instance, has the capacity to receive cryptocurrency on your behalf. So just to understand that there are many new aspects to how you would go about accepting cryptocurrency.
Right.
Oh, go ahead, please, Lucinda.
Yeah, just a couple more quick questions. So one similar along these lines, Barbara's asking if you've had any interactions with crypto donors, and have any of your crypto donors been advocate to other donors? Like, have you seen that trend in terms of donor acquisition that you were talking about, Andi?
Yeah, big time. That is what I think is really interesting about the donors that are in this space, is that there's a lot of transparency. Like, transparency is a really big value among this donor demographic, and being very open about who they're supporting, what they're learning. Like, people post their receipts, right, of their donation, and you can go and use the QR code, which we talked about earlier, to scan and actually like look for proof that they've sent what they said they've sent to the organization that they're claiming to support. And like, that's a big deal with these folks. And we've had partners. Potherium is our big partner. So if you go and like look at our Twitter feed or Google PAWS and cryptocurrency, you'll see a lot of content between us and them, because that was our largest organization. But they tag us in things all the time. They're elevating us in conversations that they feel are relevant to our organization, and they do that with other groups. I mean, they've invited us to be on their podcast and give community updates, and like there's this real hunger among these donors to be very interactive with the organizations that they support, which is something that's important to keep in mind. Like, stewardship here, I would say, is a bit more intensive than it might be for other donor groups that you might be supporting, right? Like, it's not just like a one-time handwritten thank you note done. Like, they want you to be like retweeting them on Twitter and like posting things and tagging them and stuff. Like, they want kind of ongoing visibility and affiliation. So that's just something that I think is important to keep in mind. But if you're able to provide that kind of relationship, then you have an advocate and someone who's in your corner, and who's gonna bring your name up in conversation in Discord, on Reddit, and other places where they're interacting with folks who are starting projects or looking for places to give their crypto. So there's definitely that like viral internet effect when you get in with the right folks. Karl, am I characterizing that like generally with your experience too, from what you've seen?
I think that's a really good point. And a lot of organizations, in addition to like adding crypto as like a donation method, it's part of like their overall marketing strategy too. Adding crypto into like a fundraising post on Twitter tends to be some of our organizations most engaged with content. And then just like you said, when people start having organizations reach out to them with donations, it's usually you get that donation, but then you get exposure to their whole crypto audience, their project audience. And a lot of times that kind of spreads like wildfire. So part of what we do is try to help guide you into how you steward that to benefit off of the back of future donations that stem from those. But yeah, I think that's part of what's exciting about the community being so engaging.
Great. Well, we have a little bit more time for a couple more questions. So there have been a few technical questions, and we sort of touched on this. And Karl, earlier you mentioned how a lot of nonprofits and the Giving Block helps them liquidate the funds right away and make that transaction. So what's the benefit of that? And is there a process or a place for it to be held onto? So does it help your balance sheet, for example, as an inflation hedge rather than immediately liquidating it into dollars?
Yeah, so we have, step one of onboarding is we'll help you set up your institutional crypto exchange account. And that's going to require, I know, Barbara, you said, what are the rundown, the clearances? Yeah, it's going to require like your 990, your W-9, ID for the control of the account to make sure that you guys are, a tax deductible entity in the US, and we work internationally as well. So that's kind of step one. Generally, most of the organizations do turn the crypto into US dollars. We do have the option for organizations to hold the crypto like as an investment. So that's definitely an option for you. It'll just sit in your exchange account until you guys eventually want to liquidate it. I will say it's generally a harder sell for like a financial committee, at least at this time. They like to have it in US dollars, FDIC insured. And nobody wants to be the decision maker that says, hey, let's hold on to the cryptocurrency and then have it go down 50%. Even if it does go up 50%, it's a lot easier to take yourself away from that equation. Just be like, we'll just sell it for US dollars. But we do have tech for executive directors, organizations who choose to hold it as like an investment as part of their balance sheet. Just about 2% of the organizations we work with so far. But that might change in the future, so you never know. But the option's always there for you, no matter what you want to do.
Well, as we move toward the end of our time together, I just want to ask each of you to share the one thing that you would encourage our attendees to take into consideration as they think about whether or not they should incorporate crypto giving into their fundraising strategy. Alex?
That's an important question. I would consider two things. Your audience. Do you have an audience that you think could have an appetite? Yes, great. No. Move on to question two, which is, what is your capacity? Do you have the capacity to search for a new audience in the ways that we've talked about? And is that a good investment of the capacity of your team?
Thank you. Andi?
Do not go it alone. That is my big takeaway. This is still a wild world, and there are a lot of different things that, turns you can take, right? And pathways you can go down. And it's really important to have a trusted partner for you. That may be the Giving Block, there may be internal expertise, there may be someone on your board, but definitely make sure you have someone who's truly an expert in this realm and the intersection between crypto and nonprofits, because there's just so much to learn. And there's not yet a centralized way of gaining that knowledge.
Thank you. And Karl?
Yeah, I think the number one takeaway is this is something that's a lot easier than a lot of people think. So it's always better to start early. I think the biggest mistake that a lot of organizations that we work with, made was they ignored crypto. And then when crypto was at its highs last year, we had hundreds of organizations trying to sign up. And by far the organizations who already had like crypto fundraising in their strategy, well before in that year, were the most successful. You can kind of think of it as like the dot-com bubble. When the dot-com bubble exploded, and everyone still has websites. When YouTube was created, people who are the first to create a YouTube channel tend to be the most viewed on YouTube. So I would think of it very similar in that way. So if it does fit into like your overall strategy, if you think that you have the bandwidth, that you have the individual giving program, then I would think earlier is better than later. There's a big first mover advantage. That's my takeaway.
Thank you. And thanks to all three of you. I would just add on behalf of Alford Group, think about your mission, think about your why, make sure this feels like that it fits within who you are as an organization, what your values are, that it reflects your commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that you go boldly. If you do it, go big, make it happen in an exciting way for your organization. we'll be sharing some resources after the session, and there will be some on just basic cryptocurrency in addition to these that are here. And the Giving Block has many of these resources on their website. You can capture this QR code to grab that. Lucinda, if you want to wrap up here.
Yeah, just a couple of reminders and logistics before we do wrap up. We're nearing the end of our time. So this is the third webinar in our fall webinar series. We have one left. The last one is capital campaigns, the 4 things you need to have in place before you launch. It's on December 8th. The QR code here is to take you straight to the registration page. So you can do that from your phone in about 15 seconds and register for our next webinar. And that webinar and today's webinar are both approved for 1.0 CFRE credits, as a reminder. And then finally, thank you. This was lovely. Thank you, Andi. Thank you, Alex, Karl, and Sharon. This is such a rich conversation, rich, important, and timely conversation. And if we did not answer your question, which there were more that we didn't get to, feel free to contact us. info@alford.com, which is on the bottom of the screen here, is the best way to reach us. We are committed to answering your questions and surely want to continue the conversation. Again, this session has been recorded. So within about 24 hours, you'll receive an email from us with the full recording, the links to those resources that we had on the slide just previous, and a link to a survey. So the survey is very short. It's 4 questions. It won't take you long, but we would really love your feedback. So please consider taking the survey as well. So with that, we are at time. Again, thank you to the panel. Thank you, Sharon, for hosting and moderating. And we're going to conclude today's session. We hope that you all have a really, really great day. And we're now going to disconnect. Thank you all and take care.
Thank you.